Radios are once again the topic of discussion today. We're going to look at a few radios that are kind of the type of mobile VHF, UHF radios that I like for simplex and repeater operation. And back when I first got my ham radio license, something that caught my eye on some of the advertised radios was the mil-spec 810, which is a specification for basically for tough radios that can stand up to shock, vibration, a certain amount of moisture, and so on. Adverse environments, in other words. The type of radio you will put in a Jeep or a Humvee or whatever, you know. So a couple of the radios that were popular then, or that were advertised and caught my attention then anyway, were the Yaesu FT2400, and I've got a couple of those, and the Asden PCS 6000. And the Asden is a little less user friendly than the Yaesu, but it's still a decent radio. And I never had an Asden 2-meter rig back then. I did have an Asden 6-meter radio, but didn't use it a whole lot because there just wasn't a lot of 6-meter FM activity. Most of the 6-meter activity was on single sideband. And of course, the Asden didn't do single sideband, so it was limited in what I could use it for. But I guess it was last year I went to the Hamfest locally and saw this 2-meter Asden. Let me see if I can zoom in on it a little bit. So there it is. Saw that radio sitting on a table, and it had a pretty low price on it already, but nobody was looking at it, and the guy seems like he was packing up, getting ready to go home. So I made a lowball offer and got it for $10. I figured, you know, if it turned out, I mean, I didn't even test it. If it turned out to not even work, I was only out $10. And as it turns out, it did work. Works fine. And I've used it a bit. And it might actually end up being my shop radio at some point. So anyway, when I got my GMRS license recently, I decided to kind of pursue the same type of deal, the 810 spec, simply because there were some available that there were other things that I liked about them, and specifically the Kenwood 805 commercial radio. And the primary thing that caught my attention about it was that you can program it from the front panel. You have to open it up and move a jumper, but once you do that, you can actually program the frequencies and everything from the front by, you know, not on the fly. You have to turn it off and bring it back up in the programming mode and do your programming, and then turn it back off, and when you bring it back up, it'll be in operating mode. But that's a lot better than most commercial radios. With most commercial radios, you have to have a cable and a computer to program it, and the right software, of course. And you can do that with these too, but you also have the option, as I said, of front panel programming. The other thing I like about it is, well, like I said, it carries the 810 rating, and they're out there for some pretty cheap prices. And it's only a 16-channel radio, but that's enough for GMRS. So I like it for that reason. I've got a couple of them, and if you take a look at this one, wow! See, that one has had something spilled on it. I don't know, some taxi cab driver spilled his lunch on it or what the deal was. But come on now. Well, let's zoom out. There we go. Okay. But yeah, I believe these were taxicab radios. They only had 2 channels programmed into them. But I have since reprogrammed them for GMRS frequencies. And you can tell, of course I'm going to clean this. I'm going to take probably just some water and an old toothbrush and clean that off. And if water won't get it, then I'll try something different. Alcohol maybe. But the thing is, it does work. Let's see, I believe no, I haven't programmed this one. So it still just has 2 channels in it. Because I haven't pulled the cover off of it. And I wanted to take pictures of it and, you know, make this short video showing just how bad it is and the fact that it still works, before I cleaned it and opened it up and changed the jumper and everything so I could reprogram it. So as you can see, it powers up, and I put a dummy load on it and a power meter and determined that it does transmit. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with it. But I wanted to share that, just how bad it looks and yet it still works. So that kind of goes along with my ham radio simplex and repeater FM rigs, in that you know, they're tough, single band, and just enough to get the job done.